President Bush is expected in the White House at the Oval Office to talk to all of us, to address this nation tonight on Operation Desert Storm in about 4 minutes. NBC's John Cochran is one of our White House correspondents. He's been there all evening long. John, any additional word on what we can expect from the president?
Well, I do think we're going to hear him make some sort of overture.
To the Capitol, I think. NBC's Andrea Mitchell with Senator David Boren, who's chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He was brought into this process early on, and we're going to hear about what the targets were and how they were selected. Andrea?
He was briefed indeed as chairman of the Intelligence Committee by the CIA Director, William Webster. What targeting were you told about?
Andrea, I think obviously we want to knock out the command and control mechanism. The important thing is to decapitate the Iraqi military, to knock out the top leaders and their ability to communicate with their troops so they will feel deserted. The other important thing is to knock out the missile launch capability that could threaten other countries, our troops in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and other countries. That's extremely important, and also knocking out the chemical, nuclear, and biological warfare capability. I think we want to hear from the president. It's going to be interesting to see how successful we've been in severing this command and control network, because that will affect our ability of succeeding as this thing goes along. So that's extremely important. In my opinion, certainly they've picked the right targets. They're going at it the right way, and we just all hope and pray that this first strike will be a very successful one.
Well, stand by.
The inevitable has happened. American, British, French and Kuwaiti planes bombed targets throughout Iraq and Kuwait as dawn broke in the Middle East today. Cruise missiles, F-15 stealth bombers and British Tornadoes were used in the first wave of attacks. President Bush is about to address the American people from the White House regarding the military operation, now referred to as Operation Desert Storm. We will bring you reaction from Prime Minister Jim Bolger at the Beehive within the hour. Later, 3 National News will begin its reports on the Gulf War with an hour-long special report at 6 o'clock this evening. At that time, we'll bring you a report from the leading news agencies around the world. Now we cross back to NBC.
Intelligence Committee Chairman is Senator David Boren, Democrat of Oklahoma, and he was briefed, as you heard, by the CIA on what is going on. Intelligence is crucial in all of this, and of course the Congress now has established this apparatus so that it too can be a piece, have a part in the decision-making process and be briefed along the way. But ultimately the decision rests with the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States. He did make the decision. We've been hearing that he made it 2 days ago. Today he decided to launch Desert Storm. It has now been underway for about 4 hours. And we're going to go to the Oval Office momentarily to hear from the President of the United States as he speaks to the country and what has been going on tonight in the name of everyone here. And here now is the President of the United States, George Bush, addressing the nation from the Oval Office, Operation Desert Storm.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. This conflict started August 2nd when the dictator of Iraq invaded a small and helpless neighbor. Kuwait, a member of the Arab League and a member of the United Nations, was crushed. Its people brutalized. 5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined. This military action, taken in accord with United Nations resolutions and with the consent of the United States Congress, follows months of constant and virtually endless diplomatic activity on the part of the United Nations, the United States, and many, many other countries. Arab leaders sought what became known as an Arab solution, only to conclude that Saddam Hussein was unwilling to leave Kuwait. Others traveled to Baghdad in a variety of efforts to restore peace and justice. Our Secretary of State, James Baker, held an historic meeting in Geneva, only to be totally rebuffed. This past weekend, in a last-ditch effort, the Secretary General of the United Nations went to the Middle East with peace in his heart, his second such mission, and he came back from Baghdad with no progress at all in getting Saddam Hussein to withdraw from Kuwait. Now, the 28 countries with forces in the Gulf area have exhausted all reasonable efforts to reach a peaceful resolution, have no choice but to drive Saddam from Kuwait by force, we will not fail. As I report to you, air attacks are underway against military targets in Iraq. We are determined to knock out Saddam Hussein's nuclear bomb potential. We will also destroy his chemical weapons facilities. Much of Saddam's artillery and tanks will be destroyed. Our operations are designed to best protect the lives of all the coalition forces by targeting Saddam's vast military arsenal. Initial reports from General Schwarzkopf are that our operations are proceeding according to plan. Our objectives are clear. Saddam Hussein's forces will leave Kuwait. The legitimate government of Kuwait will be restored to its rightful place, and Kuwait will once again be free. Iraq will eventually comply with all relevant United Nations resolutions, and then, when peace is restored, it is our hope that Iraq will live as a peaceful and cooperative member of the family of nations, thus enhancing the security and stability of the Gulf. Some may ask, why act now? Why not wait? The answer is clear. The world could wait no longer. Sanctions, though having some effect, showed no signs of accomplishing their objective. Sanctions were tried for well over 5 months, and we and our allies concluded that sanctions alone would not force Saddam from Kuwait. While the world waited, Saddam Hussein systematically raped, pillaged, and plundered a tiny nation, no threat to his own. He subjected the people of Kuwait to unspeakable atrocities, and among those maimed and murdered, innocent children. While the world waited, Saddam sought to add to the chemical weapons arsenal he now possesses an infinitely more dangerous weapon of mass destruction, a nuclear weapon. And while the world waited, while the world talked peace and withdrawal, Saddam Hussein dug in and moved massive forces into Kuwait. While the world waited, while Saddam stalled, more damage was being done to the fragile economies of the Third World, the emerging democracies of Eastern Europe, to the entire world, including to our own economy.